So notice that in this relationship between the gold account and the investment account, for instance, we specify that this is a public type of inheritance. So once again, what does it mean? It just means that everything that's available here likewise is going to be continue to available in the derived class, which is very much the most type of cases with when you think about inheritance. You really want this sort of like grab everything from the base class and make it part of the derived class. Just pretty simple. And this is what this public thing does. Okay, but there are different access levels for inheritance. So the public inheritance level is the most common. All public members of base are also public in derived, and that's the rule. Okay. So the second choice, which I would say, you know, is the next thing to consider, is the private inheritance. So we say, okay, there is a base class, and we want to inherit everything privately. And by the way, private inheritance is the default. So if this keyword is missing, not included, then the access level of inheritance is considered to be private. If you want the same relationship to be public, declare your concepts as structures, not classes. But this is not important. Let's just compare this to this. What is different? Okay, so what is different? And what is different is that everything that is public or protected inside the base class can still be used in the derived class. Everything is just fine. The only restriction of this is that when all of this is complete, okay, so we have completely written the base class, completely finished the derived class, any public data members and public functions of the base class will no longer be visible. They will be blocked by this private type of inheritance. So outside, when someone wants to create the derived class and there is an operation on the base class which is public, they will not be able to call this operation outside of the derived class. So this is the idea. Why would you want something like this? Why would you want something like this? There could be a few scenarios. For example, one possibility is that we have a software system that does something pretty spectacular, and we have a component there that was designed. Okay, so a class, for instance, this could be a pretty complicated class that's called payroll computation, right? So this is like human resources application that computes payroll for contractors, so full-time employees, part-time employees, and everything to deal with compensation. Okay. So we have this payroll class. And so it has lots of operations, right? Lots of all sorts of operations that can be used during the payroll computation, and all sorts of things for configuring, you know, the list of employees of the company. There's all sorts of things, lots of things are present here. And yet, all of this functionality pretty much is used perhaps during the tax season computation, or only when like we produce some kind of monthly computation. So basically the usage of all of this is not very common. But on a weekly basis, we use only a subset of the functions here. So what can we do? We can then create a specific like weekly payroll class, derive it from this class, right? Just specify this type of relationship and define this relationship as private. Okay, so then this class, the weekly payroll, can use all of these functions. It's not a problem. All of these functions are public and everything is okay. Okay, but then it will redesign its own interface and create a list of functions will be much more simplified. Not as complicated as these, perhaps even with lots of parameters over here. So this thing is automating a lot of these tasks, knows how to use all of this, and basically what it does is just simplifies the interface. So when we have some sort of client class that wants to use the payroll, instead of going and using this complicated thing that has thousands of lines of code, it can be using much simpler interface, and it's perfectly good for the job, right? Some other component may have to use some kind of like really rare functions over here. Then this component of the system can still create an instance of this class and use it for its own tasks. Okay, but here when we want to redefine the interface, in fact, private type of inheritance, the meaning of it is that you want to redefine the interface of the base class in your derived class. Basically, you can simplify it. So it's not a very basic type of expanding something. It's really more like collapsing something and making something, pretending like something does not exist when it really does exist. Okay, so these are the situations where the private type of inheritance may be useful, and it's a design concept. However, this would constitute only small percent. Most of the time, this is your choice. Okay, so when you use your classes and you have the base classes, derived classes, just don't forget. Okay, don't forget this keyword to use in your specification of this access level of inheritance.